generally, I have found these projects work best when you give the class an interesting problem to think about and solve. And so in essence, the problem that we gave them was conversations around news. We know that there's a value to it. We know that most news sites now allow it with at least an open and a comment form. We also know that historically, newspapers have not just been in the fact business, they've been in the forum business. That's why we have letters to the editor. In fact, if you go back into earlier eras of newspaper history, that was an even more important function than the news function. But by the time we got to the mass media era, that became kind of this little tiny piece of what newspapers were. So part of the idea here was reimagine the idea of providing a community forum for the digital age, which is instead of what's now cable letters to the editor concept. That's the context. And we worked with the Gazette in Cedar Rapids, which is the paper Jason works for. The idea was that that would give the students a real life community to think about, some real content, some real users, and they actually provided us with some users to talk to and get feedback on. With that, I'm just going to let Ryan talk about the process and the product.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the process that we went through. We spent 3 weeks. We started talking to people. We went over market research that we got from the Gazette. We did surveys with the people who the Gazette put us in contact with in Cedar Rapids, and we just did a lot of thinking, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of arguing, and we kind of like went full circle because we were pretty much open-ended. We could work on anything, and the initial idea that Rich kind of gave us was this conversations around news, and we went all the way around. We thought about building a website for parents in the Cedar Rapids area and all kinds of different stuff. We ended up coming back to this, and the approach that we took is we came up with basically how many different ways can you comment on a news story, and we kind of made lists. I think we came up with like 12 different kind of ideas, and for the sake of being able to accomplish something by the end of the quarter, we narrowed it down to 3. And then also another big part that we really liked, the idea that came up in our brainstorming sessions, was integrating with existing social network. So the 4 things we kind of accomplished with this were 3 different kinds of commenting systems, letters to the editor kind of thing that modeled after like a long form. Think about your rant before you just type it in and send it off into the internet. We have quips, which you can actually see on the side here, which are basically like Twitter-esque, chat-like, thoughts, and we prompt people with verbs, so you can, like it's a status message, like on Facebook or something, your name, verb, and then whatever you want to type, and then the other. The other commenting mechanism that we decided to go with was questions and answers, an annotation. So what you can do is I'll show it just in a second here. You can add questions to specific paragraphs in an article, and then go back and either answer those questions, and the reporter can go back and answer those questions. So everything here, there's a lot more that we can do with it, but it's all very bare bones and just kind of a technology demo. So this is actually all content from the Gazette. It's quite old now, but as you can see on the side here, these are all aggregated from across the site. These are messages that people put up here. And let's take a look at an article here. You can see these are all the clips that people have left here. Lots of people testing the site. And these are just for the specific article. And then over here on the left, you can see the little speech bubbles that we have on the side here. And that allows you to specifically add stuff to a paragraph. So you can see what people have done versus something. So somebody asks some random question, and people get the option to respond. You can ask a new one, add one to And then completely separate, which is the kind of the way we wanted to do, is letters to the editor. We kind of wanted to make this kind of like a standalone thing, so people could have, it was kind of like blogish, right? So people could have their own venue, their own page for their own content, to kind of give them a voice, in order to encourage like a, you know, thought put into the comments, and thought put into the writing and whatever else. So we attach them. You can respond to an article. You can respond to somebody else's letter. You can just write a letter about something. You're limited. You're limited to like 250 words, but you get kind of your own space.
Go ahead and log in. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Let's see if it works.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting working with Facebook Connect because we had so many problems with getting it to work. And initially, like, it was great. The first time we gave this demo, it went off without a hitch. And then every other time we tried to give it, it just fell. But I think we've worked out a lot of things now because it seems to work.
Yeah.
So just to give you a little demo here, I mean, this is the way that the quick link works. So just a little box at the top. You can pick your verb or whatever.
So far, been the key phrase.
And then you see this, the way to integrate it into the social network here is like every time you add something, add content to the site, you add a question or an answer or a quip, you just can push it back to Facebook. So if I publish this thing, if I go to my Facebook page, I should be on there.
You should be logged in already. You are.
Yeah. Let's go to the profile.
Brave man.
Yeah, there it is.
So I can like push my stuff right back here, and if I wanted to, I can make this a little bigger, so you can actually see like a snippet of the article that I commented on, and I can click back to it.
And of course, anybody who's in Ryan's friend network now sees this in their feed on Facebook.
Questions and answers. I mean, it all works pretty similarly. So I can add a question. And it'll pop up here, and then if I know the answer to the question, I can click the answer button, give my answer, and then add a reference. This is something that we kind of went back and forth between requiring and not requiring as part of the thing. I mean, if you're going to give an answer and you want to be authoritative, you really should have something to back it up, right? I mean, Wikipedia knows everything, so you should be able to find something somewhere that backs up the answer that you're going to give.
Cool if you could run a little Ajax wiki search in the widget there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as you type or something, I don't know, come up with some kind of do.
So is it required?
No, it is not required.
It isn't now.
It's worth pointing out that this Q&A option conceptually could be crowdsourcing. I mean, it could be anybody out there, but it also could be a place for the journalists. To me, this is really interesting to think about. Suppose, in fact, that every story you write, the public is out there saying, hey, wait, here's a question that's occurred to me that you didn't answer in this story. Talk about it more. I mean, I think that was the original sort of genesis of this idea, was that, if you just have an open-ended comment box, it's not actually creating a dialogue between the reporter and the public. And the public, as Dan Gilmore says, knows more than we do as journalists. Well, maybe in some cases it's not that they know more, it's that they actually have a better idea than we do about what the next question is you